A Sydney council is set to cancel Australia Day celebrations on January 26th in favour of an Aboriginal festival called Yabun. The Inner West Council will vote on a motion to move the event from the January 26th date. Mayor Darcy Byrne says moving the Australia Day celebrations will provide a more respectful approach. The council will vote on the proposal next Tuesday night with expectations it will pass with the backing of Labor and Greens councillors.
And joining us now is Darcy Byrne. He joins us live from Sydney. Thanks so much for your time. Why are you doing this?
Well, it's important to note that we will be keeping citizenship ceremonies on the 26th of January, which I've officiated many of them over the years, and they're fantastic events. But the truth is that attitudes in the community towards the 26th of January have been changing. The date's not going to change, so the way that we mark the date does need to change and become more of a commemoration rather than a celebration, and that's the aim here.
Just talk, what's this Aboriginal festival as well? How does that tie into your proposal?
Yabun is a very prestigious Aboriginal event which is held each year in Victoria Park, just near Sydney University, which is just outside the border of the Inner West Council. It's one of the largest and best known Aboriginal festivals across Australia. And we think a respectful way for us to approach the day is to encourage as many Inner West citizens as possible to get down there to an alcohol-free event and to learn about Australia's longest, the world's longest continuous human civilisation.
You say you'll keep these citizenship ceremonies, but is that going to be allowed by the government? In previous cases, like the Byron Bay Shire Council, the government has threatened to strip those councils of those ceremonies. So why are you different?
They've sought to do that with councils who have cancelled citizenship ceremonies. We're not proposing that. Just last week we received a diktat from the Morrison government that we'd need to enforce a new fashion police dress code at citizenship ceremonies. I've written back to let them know that's totally unnecessary.
So have you been given an undertaking by the government that you will not be stripped of citizenship ceremonies, or is that your assumption?
Well, I think it would be quite authoritarian for the government to introduce a new fashion police dress code and then start dictating how much we have to spend on festivals around Australia Day. Most councils across Australia would only hold a citizenship ceremony, and I fully expect that the government will understand that and that it would be untenable to remove citizenship ceremonies from the birthplace of Australian multiculturalism.
What is the breakdown on the number of Aboriginal residents who live in your shire?
Well, it's not a shire, it's a council, but obviously, you know, it's a very small proportion of the population, as it is across Australia. But I think there's been a growing number of Australians and people in our local community who think that, given the 26th of January does mark for Aboriginal people the beginning of colonisation, of dispossession, of the removal of children and the deliberate destruction of language and culture, that there's a better, more mature, more respectful way for us to commemorate the day that includes them, and that's what we're seeking to achieve.
Darcy, what do you base that on? Because is there a risk here that you could be just responding to a loud minority?
I think there is a broad and emerging consensus across the community that we need to do more to listen to the voices of Aboriginal
Based
people
on what
on the 26th
evidence, though?
Well, I've spoken to hundreds of people in the local community who've raised it with me in recent years. We're not seeking to change the date. We're seeking to make sure that the way that the day is commemorated is more mature and respectful. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's something that all Australians can get behind.
But you say you've spoken to hundreds of people. We're talking in your council, there's hundreds of thousands of people who live there. So how do you balance the hopes of a few with the larger amount of people?
Well, balance is exactly the right word. I'm not pretending that this won't be controversial or that there's consensus about what to do. However, I think a sensible middle path is to maintain citizenship ceremonies. We'll hold a terrific one that will be a great event and that will be very moving and poignant, as they always are. And we're not seeking to take anything away from the community. The festival that the Children's and Families Festival that we've held in Enmore Park can be held on another day and be held as an end of summer festival. Our Citizen of the Year Awards, which are a terrific event in and of themselves, can also be held on another date. So there's nothing being lost here. It's just the council trying to work with the community to find a better, more mature and respectful way to acknowledge what 26th of January means to everybody.
Well, why would people turn up on another date, though?
I think most people who turn up to the festival that we've been holding in Enmore Park come along not out of any sense of nationalism, but because it's a fun event for kids and families. And we certainly don't want to take that away. We can put that on another day. But there are a lot of people in our community, and I think across Australia, who think that there's a way for us to be more inclusive of Aboriginal people in the way that we mark the 26th of January. There's a growing awareness of the fact that it's still a day that causes a lot of hurt for Aboriginal people, and there are real contemporary consequences of what happened through colonisation and dispossession. So I think this is a middle course, and I expect that there will be a lot of people in the community who can get behind it.
Darcy Byrne, thank you.
Thanks very much for your time.